There are a lot of really good, nay, really great guitar players out there. But has anyone ever heard of them? Maybe you have. I mean, you're watching this channel, so you're probably a guitar player, right? But if we're talking about guitar players that are currently creating music, as opposed to people from generations ago, can anyone name any of these that is not a guitar player themselves? Is guitar dying or dead? Well, let's talk about it. But first, I'm going to run my spiffy intro. We are 2 decades into the 21st century, and the days of guitar-dominated, mostly rock music are a good 30 years behind us now. If you were to walk into a high school and ask any 10 kids to name the guitarist of their favorite band, I don't think you would get one answer today. And if you did that back in the heyday of guitar, like 70s through the 80s in that era there, you would probably get more than one answer from every one of those kids. In fact, if you look at the current pop charts, there is very little music on it that has any guitar in it at all. So is guitar dead, or is this just cyclical? I don't know if I have the answer to that, but I can tell you that it is never going to come back if we don't correct what is one very pervasive problem. Back in the 70s and 80s, like I was talking about in the heyday of guitar, if you wanted to get known as a guitar player, you joined a band, you worked on your skills, you learned some songs from other people, and eventually hopefully wrote your own songs and started showing off your skills in the context of a band that was writing music. Nowadays, if you're going to get known as a guitar player, you get on YouTube, you get on Instagram, and you start playing and showing off to people in that manner. And those platforms certainly serve a good purpose. It's great that we can get out there and guys like me can reach more people without some kind of big record company or marketing budget behind us. We can reach the world potentially anyway. But there's a downside to it too. I'm going to say maybe a slightly controversial thing and say that YouTube and Instagram have killed songwriting. Yeah, that's right. They've killed songwriting. Well, at least maybe for guitar players. Why? Because if you want to get known or get any recognition for your guitar playing, you get on one of those video platforms like that and you sit there and show how many notes you can stuff into 60 seconds of video. Who watches this stuff? Well, a bunch of other guitar players who actually know what that is about and who try to do those things themselves. And then they get feedback and likes on these videos and you feel good about your playing because you've worked on this stuff and at least you're getting some recognition for it. And what is that? It's not songs. It's just stuff that's really hard to play. And so what happens to new guitar players? They see this stuff when they're in the process of learning and they want to get some notoriety themselves like any of us did when we started playing. And so then they work on figuring out how to put 200 notes into 60 seconds of video. I'm not saying that there's no place for that. I do that stuff myself sometimes. It's rewarding to work on a very difficult piece of music, get it down, and then show it to people and get some positive feedback on all that hard work that you did. But I also recognize that this is not songwriting and nobody who's not a guitar player is going to appreciate it in the slightest bit. Do you remember why you started playing guitar in the first place? Was it some Instagram video with 39 upside down crazy arpeggios? Or was it a really cool riff in a song that gave you an emotional response that maybe even later you came to find out was really easy to play? So what I'm trying to say is not to get caught in this vicious kind of cycle where you turn to YouTube and Instagram to do some of your learning early on and you discover these guitar players doing all this shred stuff. And then you start working on that stuff yourself in the hopes of getting some feedback and you forget about the process of songwriting. You don't go out there and try to find a band. You don't go out there and try to write songs that are meaningful to people that have nothing to do with music. And if we're ever going to resuscitate guitar in the popular culture, and maybe it'll never happen, maybe this has gone the way of jazz, where that's no longer popular music, even though it's still out there, maybe you might want to think about songwriting just as much as you think about your technique. You want those 10 high school kids to know your name? You're going to have to write a song that makes them feel something. All that said, I try to walk my talk. Songwriting is really important to me, and maybe my 15,000 or so monthly listeners won't resuscitate guitar music entirely, but maybe it'll be one itty-bitty tiny step for guitar kind, and maybe my lessons will inspire you to write that next hit song that actually has guitar in it, and then we'll have a renaissance. Or maybe you're just doomed to this. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.